Let's look at the S&P 500 on a yearly chart to see the perspective from where we've been since the great financial crisis in 2008. So I have this going back to 1932, the Great Depression, and the Fibonacci retracement is anchored at that low here, and then at the high over here to the Arab oil embargo. And you can see that it went down to about the 50% Fibonacci retracement, right in between 38.2 and 50. And then it was off to the races until the dot-com bubble. So then I have the Fibonacci retracement anchored at the low for the Arab oil embargo up to the dot-com bubble. And that's when it started forming a big M going into the great financial crisis here. So here we'll draw a big M. There's one up from the Arab oil embargo to the dot-com bubble, and down here, and then up here, and then into the great financial crisis where the big M should have had a drop down to approximately right here as the measure rule, about 400 back then. And that's when the Fed stepped in with quantitative easing right here to avoid that. And then we had the run up from the great financial crisis up to the present day. You can see the Fibonacci retracement there anchored at the low in 2008, and then the high over here before the COVID crash. And there really was not much of a retracement. No matter how bad it was, it didn't even make it down to the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement. So you can see what the scare was back here, back in the great financial crisis here in '08. It broke this trend line going back to the Arab oil embargo through the dot-com bubble and into the great financial crisis. It broke it there. So it was headed down to 400, but then the Fed stepped in, and the rest is history. And now we're in the process of erasing that in present day with the quantitative tightening. And it really hasn't been much of a move from it, so the markets are really resilient, and the Fed is being steadfast, so it's somewhat of a standoff. And you can see that the measure rule would have been a 41% drop on top of the 41% drop from this great financial crisis down to 2008 or so. So that was really the moment when there was going to be the major correction there. And again, the Fed stepped in, and the rest is history.